So this is part B of the Khoodeelaar television channel. Hope that this will be possible to be maintained for a bit longer than the last two times, I think, because we had difficulty in maintaining internet connection. This is the Khoodeelaar television channel being broadcast under the banner of Baby Angel Geronimo. And this is coming on the internet, not on satellite, not on terrestrial, and not on cable platforms. So today's items that we are going to comment on, hopefully diagnose, world exclusive original, is a piece that we are looking at on the Times London, page 9 of the Times London, part 2, Times 2, that is a supplement on the Times of Wednesday, the 5th of July 2023. And its heading is "The Man Risking His Life to Tell the Truth About India." Now, this is really outrageous because from the 15th of August 1947, no Western media, no Western outlet has told the truth about India. So this is outrageous. The claim that anyone is involved in or interested in telling the truth about India is an outrageous claim, because the image of India politically that is maintained by the Western media is the image that is wholly supported by the establishment, the powers that be both in the USA and in the UK. Going back to the period before the USSR came down, I remember in Dhaka, in East Pakistan at the time, walking in Dhaka and looking at the huge erections of pillars and banners celebrating the USSR, and the newspapers in then Pakistan, and Dhaka was East Pakistan, it didn't make any difference. The newspapers in Pakistan, West Pakistan, which had got Karachi as a center from where the press mainly came, Karachi in Sindh, and Dhaka in East Pakistan. Chittagong was second to Dhaka in terms of the concentration of the local East Pakistani newspapers. Wherever they were completely, absolutely dishonest. And they were not telling the truth about what was happening in the USSR. And of course, nothing that appeared in the Pakistani papers before 16th of December 1971 gave the readers any idea that campaigners such as Alexander Solzhenitsyn or in the case of Czechoslovakia, which was part of the USSR's colony, Alexander Dubček, were risking their lives in the way that Dubček did to get away from the stranglehold of the USSR. Of course, it didn't affect me because I was reading, studying, investigating, looking for information from the widest possible range of sources that I could find. So I knew what was exactly happening, but not the co residents or co patriots in the country. I cannot remember anyone who had any idea about what was going on. I didn't have any conversation with anyone at any time. So, the East Pakistan of the 1960s, which is what I'm talking about, didn't have a single news outlet that was telling the truth about what was going on in the Soviet Union, USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. It never happened, it never existed. Because for most of the periods, it was Stalin, Joseph Stalin, who was in power. Now, when I went to India after the 16th of December 1971, there was no evidence that the so called secular India, free India, because that was the image that all the Western media had painted of India post August the 15th, 1947. There was nothing critical, nothing factual about what was happening in the USSR. One of the most amazing finds that I came across in a bookshop in Kolkata, which was then Calcutta, was, of course, Nirod Chaudhary and his autobiography of an unknown Indian. I came across that book in Calcutta. Now, Nirod Chaudhary, who was born in what is Bangladesh now, Moymanshing, Nirod Chaudhary was a studious man and he got a lot of facts right. But his conclusions, Niraj Chaudhary's conclusions were absolutely, totally untrue. What an incredible insult to the intelligence reading Niraj Chaudhary's autobiography of an unknown Indian was for me. I read that one while I was staying at a hotel in the Chittaranjan Avenue. The hotel where I left all my books that I bought before I flew out of Kolkata on my way to London because I couldn't carry them. They were too heavy. I had about, I had about 200 separate volumes, and almost all of them, apart from the one Neeraj Chaudhary wrote, all the books that were newly published were mainly hastily published accounts that must have been in preparation before the 16th of December 1971, and they were rushed out of the press. And most of them I bought in the street bookshops in Chaurangi, and I was astounded to read the contents. Absolute prefabricated packs of lies about how India liberated Bangladesh. Of course, the interventions in December 1971, the aerial interventions, were significant. But the engagement that later I came to know about, the engagement that took place, must have taken place, which I became aware of in the years to follow, were not recognized by the Indian writers. This is so important because to this day, which is what? This is 2023. It's more than 52 years later. And I have yet to come across any account, any piece of journalism by anyone, either in India or anywhere else, that tells the story about the events that took place in 1971 in East Pakistan, which on the 16th of December 1971 ceased to be, and it became Bangladesh on the 16th of December. I was in hospital, and I was in hospital for months. So I didn't know what was going on in the streets, if you like, during that period. But even if I wasn't in hospital, which I wasn't for the period before I went to hospital, I couldn't see anything in the streets of Dhaka, in the streets of Silot, or in the streets of my village that gave me any physical evidence that there was a guerrilla war going on. There was nothing, no physical evidence. Not one person spoke to me about any of this. Those who did speak to me spoke in kind of third party, third person kind of way. They didn't actually give any direct evidence. It was rumors and so on. So that's the contextual background for me, which I have to put in this way that I have just done. Now, looking at this man who is described as a Ravish Kumar, Ravish is spelt in a new way that I have not seen before. Ravish, Ravish Kumar, and it says in that subheading, Ravish Kumar, comma, the star of While We Watched, tells Kevin Maher about the weaponization of India's news. Now, Kevin Maher is a name I have come across infrequently, but I haven't come across that name as a commentator about India. Now, there is nobody, either on the Times London or the New York Times or anything else in the USA, there is nobody who has been reading, studying, examining, quote, mainstream or subsidiary or underground or alternative media for as long as I have been doing. Note this, whoever is watching this. So I know what I'm talking about when I talk about media, news, and so on. And I know more than anyone else when I'm saying this. Now, this guy says that this, while we watched, is about the weaponization of India's news. I haven't read this article. I'm reading the highlights. I don't believe that this is true because, as part of the contextual analysis of events that have been taking place in the subcontinent since August 1947, the contextual analysis in a systematic way I have started. I've been doing this before, but in the systematic way I started this 4 years ago, corresponding with the appearance of the COVID-19. And as part of the study of the role being played by various parts of the Indian media, in which I include the cinema, my study of the Indian cinema is not for entertainment. It is absolutely not for entertainment. It is for analysis, diagnosis, factual evidence. Now, while I was in Calcutta, well, I was in Delhi as well, but the cinemas were not showing really mature, intelligent cinema films. I was outraged and annoyed and shocked by the low quality in the scripts and the narrative. So, since let's say the beginning or middle of 2020, so it's not 4 calendar years, since I began examining what can be accessed from the United Kingdom, the publicly accessible platforms. And I, of course, find it easier to understand the contents that are in Hindi, dubbed or original, mostly dubbed, than in the main regional languages. Telugu, Tamil, I don't speak them. Malayalam or Kannada, I don't speak them. So I do not follow them. I cannot follow them. In the Bangla language, which I do understand, I don't find anything that is original, independent, rigorous. And despite all the praise heaped on him, Mr. Satyajit Ray has not left a legacy of independent, rigorous journalism in his media, in his movies. So I'm struggling to find the evidence. I'm trying to get together the evidence that should have been there, but it isn't there. Of the bookshops or book outlets that I observed in Kolkata, a bit further down from the entrance to Chaurangi, where when I say entrance, I mean entrance going there from the Chittaranjan Avenue, which has been changed, I understand now. There were, I think, a few hundred bookshops or outlets, I would say. Maybe I'm exaggerating from memory, but there were lots and lots and lots of outlets. Small ones, but it is shocking to recall that I could not find, as I say, I'm limited to English language ones that I could read, and other languages I couldn't. And the Bangla language one was not in a prominent numerical display. So the English ones that I checked, I cannot remember one single English title that questioned, because it was the time of Indira Gandhi, wasn't it? So it didn't question the regime of Indira Gandhi. Having said all of those, here is this piece about the man risking his life to tell the truth about India. Now, that's, as I say, it has to be said, that is not true. The truth is that he is not telling the truth. And the reason why he is not telling the truth is not something I'm holding against him. I'll come to the reasons. So let's see the first paragraph of that piece by Kevin Maher. It says, on Apache Zoom signal. So this is an interview. This is based on an interview that Kevin Maher said he had with Ravish Kumar on a Zoom. So it wasn't on a telephone, it was a Zoom. On Apache Zoom signal from a holiday cafe somewhere in India, the award winning television journalist Ravish Kumar is bemoaning the demise of the country's television news media. Within quotes, the mainstream media in India has gone. It's simply not there. Now, remember what I said before I read this one. It wasn't there more than 50 years ago when I was in India. So it's been quite a long time before this realization. So he wasn't even born when I was in Kolkata, this Ravish Kumar. According to this one, he says the 48-year-old former presenter, polemicist, an interrogator general from the Hindi news channel NDTV. Kumar is the subject of While We Watched, a fascinating and foreboding documentary about the weaponization of television news, specifically Indian television news. It charts the rise of the Narendra Modi government and its gradual ideological stranglehold over popular television channels. And it illustrates how Kumar, India's once highly venerated Jon Snow, Jeremy Paxman, David Dimbleby type, but even more famous, was threatened abused, and isolated for refusing to join the propaganda machine. He is now effectively in hiding for his life. That somewhere in India, for instance, that's deliberate. I don't know when the attackers will come and to what extent they will do me harm. But security is a big concern for me, Kumar says, leaning into his phone in what appears to be a sunny and empty cafe during a brief early summer vacation. Kumar has been assaulted when recording news on the street and chased by Modi loving gangs wielding iron bars. Caution is paramount. The first thing that come to mind when I step out of my home or when I am on holiday like I am here are the alarm bells. Who is approaching me? Who has noticed that I am staying here? How long should I stay here? I rarely stay longer than 1 or 2 days, anywhere, anymore. Everything is restricted for me, and I'm learning to live with that and to handle that position and that kind of pressure. The pressure levels peaked for Kumar in 2019. Before that, he had been journalism's golden boy, a Delhi based history graduate who had risen through the ranks of NDTV. I'll read that one again because I have misread one word. Before that, he had been journalism's golden boy, a Delhi based history graduate who had risen through the ranks at NDTV. That's the at that I misread. And, and was known for his integrity and fearlessness in debate. From 2014 onwards, he slowly began to earn the enmity of Modi supporters, who saw his consistent refusal to beat the party's increasingly xenophobic agenda as the intellectual stance of an anti national, the worst insult seemingly for a child of Mother India. In 2019, however, after Pakistani terrorists killed 40 paramilitary police in India administered Kashmir, and after Modi easily won his second general election, Kumar's insistence on holding power to account suddenly became problematic for the regime, for the news media, and for the wider news watching public. Now, this is not something that I read to I read to understand what is going on. This is what I predicted that it will not be telling the truth, and it is not. This piece is not telling the truth because the use of the phrase Pakistani terrorists without any quotation marks means that they are accepting that what they are saying as Pakistani terrorists was true. That wasn't the case because Pakistan, in many ways, intellectually, strategically, and in other ways, the last thing that Pakistan wants to do would be to do terrorism in or against India. It is in Pakistan's interest, in my view, never to do anything like that. That is the general observation. The second thing is Pakistan itself is so divided in terms of the idea of the country, and there is seriously no unanimity among main agents of political power in the country about their position. And thirdly, one Times newspaper and the Financial Times and other outlets publish unconditional assertions against Pakistan. To those who read the piece or view the item, if it is a broadcast item, would be excused to believe that. Whereas the truth is that without Pakistan, that is to say, the role that Pakistan as a state, as a society, has played in the last, all the confrontations that have taken place in Afghanistan, without Pakistan being there, the West, mainly the Americans, would have suffered many times more casualties of their civilians and their military. But the main sufferings, the brunt of the suffering, the losses, have been carried, shouldered by Pakistan. It is a crime and a criminal lie against a Muslim country to say all the things that they say about Pakistan's role. Pakistan has saved the British and Pakistan has saved the Americans. They have not reciprocated, and I'm not in Pakistan. I have not been to Pakistan. I have not spoken to a single person from Pakistan. All my sources are public. And I'm absolutely critical of everything that has been happening. And I'm the one who, in the 1960s, long before the 71 events, I'm the one who completely deflated Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. I'm the one on the face of the earth who defeated Zulfikar Bhutto, nobody else. And I correctly foresaw the consequences of the stupidity of Bhutto. Now, Pakistan, in the years since August 1947, has been due to deliver freedom and independence to its people. Instead, it has been hijacked by the Americans time and again, and the American liars have abused Pakistan, distracted it from delivering freedom to its own people. For example, this criminal, the one that has supported genocides in Cambodia, Henry Kissinger. In 1971, this criminal diverted the attention of Pakistan, which was busy. Later events show, later accounts I have seen. I didn't see the accounts at the time, but I have seen since. And he did that in order to make a secret journey by using the Pakistanis to Beijing, which is Peking at the time. So the casualties of civilian Pakistanis in military confrontations have been enormous and they should not have been there. And the reason why the state of Pakistan has allowed the imperialists to carry the burden of the imperialist liabilities created in Afghanistan is because in Pakistan there has been no morally fit leader at any time. As I said, before he became a leader, I completely destroyed Zulfikar Ali Bhutto at a public exchange held at the Institute of Engineers in the 1960s. When I say I destroyed, I mean that I could assess that he was not intellectually fit and he was not morally fit. So somebody like that comes to power, becomes prime minister, becomes president of the country, and he completely does what he is doomed to do. He fucks it up. Now, I wasn't anything to do with any political party. The reason why I never belonged to any political party is not because I'm not political. I'm more political than anybody else, including Sheikh Mujib, on that face of the planet. The reason I never identified myself in a party way with any group is because none of the parties that existed was fit for my acceptance. I could not operate within any of these parties when they were idiotic, ignorant, corrupt, dishonest, and not dedicated to the people. It was the case then, and it is the case now, and it has been the case since. And as I keep saying, this exchange that I had with Morarji Desai at the India House in 1977 illustrates the point again. I had demolished Zulfikar Bhutto 10 years earlier in Dhaka. And in London in 1977, I asked a number of questions, very brief because there were too many people there. And Morarji Desai came across as an absolutely dishonest coward. Because my question was nothing to do with India. My question there was to do with the racism in Britain. Racism in Britain that the people of India or people from India, people from Pakistan, people from Bangladesh, people from Commonwealth countries were being targeted by. And my question was, as a leader of a Commonwealth country, what did he have to say? And Morarji Desai said that I had to defer to the British government. Can you believe it? Did he think that I didn't know that I could put it to the British government? Of course I could. But that is the measure of his timidity, in his cowardice, and his corruption. And he couldn't care less about the racist attacks that Indians, let alone other countries, Indians were being targeted by. And it is the case now. It is not admitted openly, but as the Indians keep complaining, well, many of the Indians from time to time are reportedly heard or read complaining that they are not they are not Pakistanis, they are not, and they object to being confused with Pakistanis. Now, how would they stop that? Because the backgrounds, the origins, the ethnicity, etc., are so similar. It's only the religion that is different. So, how can that tell a racist that they are not Muslims? The racists cannot see it. When they look at Indians and look at Pakistanis, for that matter, Pakistanis, they can't be expected to know who these people are nationality wise. But the Sai didn't have the courage, the intellect, or the maturity to tell me the truth. I, of course, wrote about that and I called his response tautological idiocy because that is what he did, Morarji Desai did. And I'm astounded that when I quizzed him on these, there were dozens of journalists, if not more, present at the time when I asked him the question at the India House. Can you believe that not one journalist raised a follow up? And that was the main question. That was the main, most politically heated issue that summer in the UK. So when this Maher in the Times today says all this rubbish, I cannot accept any of this. And what this guy is 48 years old, which means that he was born years after I left India, while we watched NDTV. Now, NDTV never, never has broadcast or published anything that is truly independent journalism. And despite the fact that this Kevin Maher says that this guy has been very prominent to the point that he has been compared with the Jon Snow, Dimbleby, and Paxman, I never heard of him. Whereas I have heard of R.K. Karanjia. Now, Karanjia was of Persian origin, that is, fire worshipping Persians that settled in the subcontinent some time ago. And R.K. Karanjia, who is dead now, and he died as a converted Hindu, he was the one that founded, edited the German word Blitz. And he was the most disgracefully dishonest creep, praising Indira Gandhi beyond the capacity of rational person to kind of put up with this kind of praise. Because Indira Gandhi, of course, survived. She created an extension for her career as India's prime minister by staging the stunt that she liberated Bangladesh. That was the big selling point for her. And she was aided and abetted, not knowingly, of course, not knowingly. Indira Gandhi, whom I shall truthfully call Indira Nehru, Indira Nehru was aided and abetted by the idiotic Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. So Zulfikar Ali Bhutto was an idiot, as I proved at the Institute of Engineers with my 9 non-stop questions to him, which were, to use the language used about me and my style in later years in a Time Out magazine in London. Because the Time Out, one writer in the Time Out describing my campaigning style said about my faxes, because those were the period when he was talking about that internet was yet to come. So I was using faxes. And this writer in the London Time Out described my action and my mode as the fusillade of faxes. The fusillades, to get the actual military language there, I will use the fusillades and give the full meaning. Fusillades of faxes, that is the phrase they used about me in Time Out. That is my style of approaching. That is at the time that they said I was using the fusillades of faxes to kind of tell them off, to condemn their behavior. Time Out or journalists like that. So the fusillades is a plural, of course, and it says a series of shots fired or missiles thrown, all at the same time or in quick succession. Now, what the Time Out said about my style as fusillades of faxes was confirmed at a different time by the reporter working at the time on the Daily Telegraph called Alistair McCall. Now, I'm remembering that from 1992. Alistair McCall said to me that he has never come across anyone who was so prompt and timely and consistent with their communications. Of course, Alistair McCall was, of course, covering my campaign at the Stratford School. And Alistair McCall was the main reporter covering my actions. While on the Times newspaper at the time, it was somebody else who has become such a pretender. But I shall come to that another time, maybe. So Alistair McCall and the Time Out magazine confirmed independently, separately, without knowledge of each other, strictly based on my contact with them and my action and my mode and style. Time Out called it my fusillades of faxes, series of shots fired or missiles thrown, all at the same time or in quick succession. That is my intellectual war, equivalent to a higher standard of war tactics and strategy than what is going on in Ukraine or The tactics that I used against the UK government in defeating their corrupt plot to dig the crossrail hole in Brick Lane. The shots were fired, but the shots were intellectual, evidential, ethical, and moral. That is the standard and level of confrontations with shaitans and liars that I need to be witnessing happening in the world. No military war, no lives lost. Telling the truth. Innal batila kana zahuka, as is said in the Holy Quran, in the Surah Al Isra. Let's see what the, let's hear if we can hear it. Innal batila kana zahuka. Waqul ja al haqqa. Now I'll read that again because I misread one word. Waqul ja al haqqu wa zahaqa al batil. Innal batila kana zahuqa. Truth has arrived and falsehood has perished. Indeed, falsehood is bound, doomed to perish. Now, when Imran Khan in Pakistan says that the Hakiki Azadi, the true independence of Pakistan that he dates to back to August 1947, that is Tehreek Insaf are embarked on creating in Pakistan the true independence. His aims and the PTI, the Pakistan Tehreek Insaf's aims in that context are laudable. However, Imran Khan has not substantiated that laudable purpose by looking at the behavior of the people who made the decisions in the name of the state of Pakistan. In the in the events of 1971 that happened, the details became known to me afterwards. Who made the decisions? I ask Imran Khan. Who made the decisions in the name of the state of Pakistan to mount the physical assaults on civilian people in East Pakistan? Who made the decision? And what law did they observe? And what part of the pledge for independence that was given to the people of the subcontinent, the Muslims, particularly during the decade of 1940s, what were they following? Why were they targeting civilian people, women, children, men in East Pakistan and attacking them? Imran Khan has no excuse not to engage on that question and the ancillary and related questions that I have been asking him in public, not by anything private, for the last 4 years, especially since soon after he became installed as the Prime Minister of Pakistan. I have said he should apologize. Whoever made the decisions, he must apologize to the surviving targets of the Pakistani military's attacks across East Pakistan. That's number one. Number two is that he must apologize and express deep remorse because the people of East Pakistan were the descendants, if you like, and many of them were still continuing from the 1940s, 1930s, were the main bringers into being of the state of Pakistan. It wasn't the people of West Pakistan that brought into being the state of Pakistan. So, how dare the people who didn't even have the leading parts, apart from people like, of course, Muhammad Ali Jinnah, Liaquat Ali Khan, and others, the ordinary people in what became West Pakistan did not play the role that the people of East Pakistan or East Bengal as it then was in the 1940s had played in bringing about what became later in August 1947 state of Pakistan. Too many things, too many things happened in East Bengal during the whole of the half century, let's say, starting from 1905, of course, but even going back before that. And the leadership in those days and at those stages, separately and unitedly, depending on the particular series of events, delivered by Maulana Abdul Hamid Khan Bashani, Sher Bangla Fazlul Haq, and their colleagues, Mr. Sarawardi, Hussain Shahid Sarawardi. The leadership that they provided was the main leadership, the people's leadership for the movement that led to the creation of the state of Pakistan. So, how did they justify attacking the people of that contribution, of that record? Who gave them any permission, any right to attack the people of East Pakistan? In international law, what law were they following in attacking the people of East Pakistan? And on the actual evidence, what crime were they alleging against the people of East Pakistan that they had targeted and they were attacking? What crimes? Going back to the aiding and abetting by Zulfikar Bhutto, which I alluded to when I said that he enabled Indira Nehru to extend her regime. Now, Bhutto was an idiot, as I have said. And the most stunning idiocy that I remember, because that was not anything to do with physical witnessing, that was to do with the actual international news that I was following, that he, Zulfikar Bhutto, actually welcomed what was obviously a manufactured, absolutely manufactured trick by Indira Gandhi, operated by the research and analysis wing and other operations. The so called terrorists who hijacked an Indian aircraft and landed at a spot in Pakistan. And instead of ignoring them or distancing himself from them, this idiot, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, went to them and welcomed them. exactly what, mathematically speaking, Indira Nehru must have calculated. And as soon as Bhutto did that, Indira Nehru said, right, the Pakistanis are behind this and we are banning their flights over our country. That was that was significant, but that was typical as well because other things, similar things happened. When he went to the United Nations, allegedly on behalf of Pakistan, Zulfikar Ali Bhutto, who was for a short period a law lecturer, probably lecturing on international law at the University of Southampton in England, where he was spotted by the military martial law administrator Ayub Khan, which is why he found him and he took him there into his cabinet. But his speeches and the comments that he made at the United Nations, you could not see him as a lawyer. He didn't know the law. Of course, he knew the law, but he didn't know the law. There is a difference. He knew itsy bitsy. He could read the law, he could refer to things like that, but he needed guidance and he didn't have any guidance. He said, instead of talking about Pakistan, he threatened a war going on for 1,000 years or something. That is not a lawyer speaking. That is not anybody speaking. So I said to Imran Khan that if he wants to create the Hakiki Azadi, he has to create credibility about him in Bangladesh by apologizing to all the people of, of then East Pakistan, now Bangladesh, whether or not he knew about this at the time or not. It doesn't matter because it is undeniable that people did get attacked, assaulted, harassed, raped, murdered. Imran Khan, why is he not doing that? Somebody says that he may not be doing that purposely. He may be afraid of the military. Let's put it this way. Let's put it this way. If he is afraid of the military, what on earth has he been campaigning? The last 1 year, he has been campaigning against the military. If the military are already trying to have him killed, what worse threat could they pose to him? There is a big illogicality in that particular excuse. I would say that on the evidence, on the facts, Imran Khan should not be afraid of the military because he is already himself the target of the military for other things he has been saying and doing. Nothing to do with 1971. So that they cannot be doing anything worse. Now, as to the relationship that Imran Khan, as a biological family, has with this Niazi, this one of the military generals, A.A.K. Niazi, Amir Abdullah Khan Niazi. I mean, is Imran Khan covering for him? I don't think he should do. Because Amir Abdullah Khan Niazi, who was the main kind of military agent in against the people of East Pakistan in 71. I mean, he was not representing Imran Khan, who was a child anyway. So, why should Imran Khan carry that baggage and allow Amir Abdullah Khan Niazi to get away? Whether he's dead or not, I don't know, but even if he's dead or even he's alive, doesn't matter. Nobody in the Pakistan military had any right, full stop, to do what they did to the people, the civilian people of East Pakistan. And the fact that they have been silent about all of these issues shows that morally they are confused. And I'm telling Imran Khan to end that confusion. Because if he says that he's different from the others, he should show that by apologizing to the people of East Pakistan in 1971 that were attacked, targeted, raped, harassed, and any number of them murdered. Nobody knows exactly how many people were massacred, murdered. And I have been saying also that Imran Khan should include as the main manifesto commitment about 1971 that compensation must be paid to the people, either those who survived or those whose relations were murdered and raped and attacked. Those families must be compensated, significant compensation. And Imran Khan should not take advantage of the general stupidity and cowardice and idiocy that is evident in the personalities and behavior of the leaders of the Bangladeshi political parties. Those are traitors. Those traitors are not demanding what I am demanding. Those traitors cannot demand what I am demanding because they're traitors. They're liars. They said they were fighting for freedom of Bangladesh, but they have been complicit with Sheikh Hasina. And Sheikh Hasina, can you believe this? Sheikh Hasina is like she is at the feet of Narendra Modi, while a Bengali woman in Kolkata, Mamta Banerjee, is the only politician across India today who has been challenging this shaitan, Narendra Modi. Now, if Mamta Banerjee can do that, what is stopping Sheikh Hasina from doing what she should be doing and all the rest of it? We shall be talking about all of these more in later editions. Not necessarily today, but we shall be doing that. And after watching this, while we watched, I mean, when I can get access to this promotion of Ravish Kumar, I shall be, of course, commenting on this piece and this promotion. And going back to the items that, where is the item that I would like to update on? Well, there are items in the papers about the use of the French police as a fascist force, not just against the Muslims in France, but against ordinary opposition activists and campaigners. And what is happening with the UK conservatives? Enabling and getting, at least through the stages within the House of Commons, various measures that are making it unlawful, illegal to campaign for democracy, democratic rights, etc., etc. Now, these are rights that are, even by the conservative, even by the kind of racist conservatives who are against the existence of the whole world, because as little Englanders, they don't believe that the world exists outside of England. These creeps, even these creeps believe in expressions like the Bill of Rights, Magna Carta, etc., etc. And what is significant about the British political kind of desert is that this political murderer of the Labour Party, which is what Keir Starmer is, he doesn't come across as having been the kind of pro bono, that is, unpaid helper to these two campaigners against McDonald's. This creep has put this strategically kind of careeristic, opportunistic claim about his time as a young licensed law trader, that he helped these two defendants when they were sued by the McDonald's. I am looking for the McLibel, check if the Keir Starmer is still there, mentioned there. So it says the McDonald's Corporation versus Steel and Morris. So that was one ruling that was dated 1997 and known as the McLibel case. And this is described in the entry on Wikipedia as the English lawsuit for libel filed by McDonald's Corporation against environmental activists Helen Steele and David Morris, often referred to as the McLibel 2, over a fact sheet critical of the company. So McLibel was the case that McDonald's, the company, the corporation, brought against Morris and Steele. It was a defamation case, and they made the claim in the defamation application that the facts contained in the fact sheets and produced, circulated by Helen Steele and Dave Morris were not true. But as the proceedings showed, they were true. Some of them were not true, but they were not all lies. They were not all defamation. And this is the thing that is important because one of the longest running, if you like, litigations now, this entry says, and I'm reading this again just for the sake of accuracy, each of the two hearings in English courts found some of the leaflets' contested claims to be libelous and others to be true, which is not libelous. And there are other people involved as well. There are many people involved. And many of the, if you like, characters in the legal bureaucracies were involved because it went on for quite some period. Chapter 5 of Paul Lewis and Rob Evans's 2012 book, Undercover, The True Story of Britain's Secret Police, is titled McSpies. In recounting the history of the Special Demonstration Squad, the book Undercover, The True Story of Britain's Secret Police recounts the involvement of undercover policemen Bob Lambert and John Dines in the activities which led up to the trial. The Guardian newspaper later reported that Lambert had co written the leaflet that was central to the libel trial. Steele has stated that Dines became treasurer of London Greenpeace. Documents from the case showed that McDonald's private investigators had been receiving information from the Metropolitan Police. The Metropolitan Police were sued over this, which was settled out of court with an apology, and the Metropolitan Police undertaking not to share information from the police computers with corporations. Now, this is the kind of thing that highlight highlight the corruption inherent in the British judiciary. Why was it settled out of court? Because one of the most frequent things that happens, for example, the baby angel Geronimo was, I'm putting it within quotation marks, represented in the three separately set High Court sittings about his case. Now, these people who represented supposedly appeared on behalf of baby angel Geronimo in the book of Truthful advocacy and representation, owed the duty to tell the truth and the whole truth and not make compromise. But they did make compromise. All the evidence that is available publicly, I make that a qualified one, and I'll come to the reference to Keir Starmer, which is why I am here on this entry. All the references to the advisors, various people who pretended to be supporters of Baby Angel Geronimo in the challenges against DEFRA, all the people are found on the accessible documentary evidence to have told Helen MacDonald, the Baby Angel Geronimo's mom in South Gloucestershire, things that they should not have told her because they tried to find excuses after excuses to discourage Helen MacDonald from sticking up and sticking to the steadfast truth that she knew about the liars at DEFRA. So, what I'm saying here is that the McDonald McLibel case, now here there is a short reference to Keir Starmer in paragraph 2 of the 3 paragraph section called the media. It says the documentary features, there was a documentary that talking about a documentary film, yeah? A feature length documentary film, McLibel, was made about the case by Franny Armstrong and Ken Loach in 1997. An extended version was produced in 2005. As of August 2004, the producers estimate that more than 25 million people have seen the film. Notice this, whoever is watching this, 25 million people watching this kind of film is not 25 million people watching some kind of loose entertainment. These people, most of them must have been seriously interested in the serious issues. So that shows the actual extent of the work that these campaigners did. Now go to the next paragraph and it says documentary features courtroom reconstructions of the trial. It also features interviews with Eric Schlosser, author of the 2001 book Fast Food Nation, Morgan Spurlock, writer, director of the 2004 film Super Size Me. Now, they're saying they're courtroom reconstructions, and there they mention Keir Starmer. And within brackets, they say, who provided free legal support to the McLibel defendants for many years. Now, I would say that that is completely dishonest. Who inserted this cryptic many years? And what free legal advice did he support? Did he provide? So, what I'm saying about the political murderer of the Labour Party, Keir Starmer, is that he could not have done that because he is going to destroy exactly the kind of political action that Steele and Morris were engaged in for too long. So let's say that I've just referred to him, which means that we can, when we come to the later updates on Keir Starmer, to this and continue. The point I'm here highlighting and analyzing, morally featuring, is the point of his dishonesty, Kiastarma. And then we go back to this woman that has recently passed away, the younger sister of the Labour MP for Mitcham and in South London, I think, Margaret MacDonald. Now, my recollection, I have not been able to check the documentary sources events that I was involved in during the confrontation I had, the particular confrontation I had with Neil Kinnock when Kinnock was in the post of the Labour Party, so called leader. And I was engaged in various activities against the corruption and racism of the Labour Party, place men and place women in Tower Hamlets Labour Party. And at one point, I think, it didn't last very long, but at one point, the confrontations ended up by my being in contact somehow through correspondence with Margaret MacDonald. Now, based on my recollection, because I'm not looking at the documentary evidence of the activity from that time, but based on my memory, I believe that she failed to take action according to the evidence that she should have taken. And I got the feeling when I last had the contact with her that she was supporting the criminals and the liars and the racists, both at the headquarters in the Labour Party as well as in the Tower Hamlets Labour Party. So, all the praise and tributes that have been paid for Margaret MacDonald, including by David Cameron's wife's sister, what's her name? Emily Sheffield. These are curious because my experience shows that she was not only not as upright as these people are saying she was, but she was as dubious as the criminals that I was asking her to act on in her position in the Labour Party at that time. So this can be repeated, recycled, extrapolated, because a crook like Peter Mandy Mandelson, is one of the criminals, including Kinnock, that discredited the idea of the European Union to the point that the movement that ended up becoming Brexit was based on the evidence of their corruption. These two, Mandelson and Kinnock. I'm saying disaster, mainly in terms of the delegitimization of the various international treaties, declarations, charters, and agreements that uphold the human rights of the most vulnerable people that are coming under attack from the fascist literature and the fascist narratives being fronted by the conservatives in the form of the very ethnically Indian origin, careerist evilness called Suela Evilar Cruelar Fernandez of Goan origin. Again, going back to the legal rights of people, innocent people, I refer to the obligations that Imran Khan has to the people of East Pakistan of 1971. And I come back to the UK and say that the so called licensed law trader, Keir Starmer, is a denier of the human rights of the people, as was Margaret MacDonough, as was Peter Mandelson, as was Neil Kinnock the Crook. And as I said, in 1977, when I challenged Morarji Desai, I had already challenged then Prime Minister James Callaghan. Now, in my experience, Callaghan remains the most abhorrent racist Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, even including all the racist things that Johnson has done. Johnson has been crafty, manipulative. Of course, he's more extensively racist because of the length of time he has been in the public kind of view. But Callaghan was an absolute thug. When I asked him the question, the coward didn't have the courage to answer my question. He pointedly he said words to the effect that he didn't want to engage. Can you imagine? If he had the courage, he should have engaged and should have given the facts on the record in front of the people that were watching it, because I asked him the question in public at an event in the Strand. So we have in the United Kingdom a so called opposition party waiting to be forming the next government. But don't hold your breath. Don't expect the delivery of human rights, of democratic rights, of transparency, unless karma, starma, is replaced by a dedicated, campaigning frontage of the Labour Party. And the Labour Party membership, the members of parliament, if they become the majority in the election. I'm not so idiotic as to say that they will definitely win the election. I can never say that. I will never say that. They may do, but they may not do. But even if they do get the majority necessary, they won't necessarily deliver the goods. So the people would have to extract the delivery of democracy, accountability, transparency, fairness, and justice. There is a lot to talk about under those headings, and we shall be doing that in later editions. This is 0853 GMT, and we have been broadcasting this one for 1 hour 35 minutes, at which point I shall conclude this one. Is part 2, part B of the Khoodeelaar